Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Paws Up preview for FIU Baseball as they look to keep the good times rolling with a tough matchup in Coral Gables as they take on the Miami Hurricanes. These are always some very fun matchups whenever they show up in the baseball season, and they happen quite a bit. 4 games in this season. FIU will be taking on our crosstown rivals over in Coral Gables, or UCG, as you will. Kevin, I think you are already warranted one automatic Canes down.
Yeah, we'll do a couple more.
Yeah, we'll probably do a couple more as this progresses, but that's Kevin Brawl, my friend and co-host, and it's just fun to talk more about baseball. Our last preview was actually for opening day when they took on Long Island, and now, again, a big matchup coming off a big series against Middle Tennessee, and that they actually won. So they're kind of riding off that high, and we'll be in Coral Gables seeing what they can do against always a very good baseball program in the Miami Hurricanes. As this preview progresses, it's going to be more than just a preview for baseball. We also have some news about both basketball, football as well, not to mention a look around FIU athletics. So should be a fun time, Kevin. But priorities first, all right? FIU baseball, they're taking on a team that they have lost 10 straight games to, Kevin. I've seen pretty much all of those. I know you've seen and been to your fair share as well. It sucks losing to that team.
Yeah, you said it. This is a very good Miami Hurricanes team, no matter what their roster looks like. I think a lot of people thought this team wasn't going to be as good as what we saw last season, just given the loss that they had with Levinson, Yoni Morales. A couple pitchers also left that team. I know Patelli's no longer with them, brother of Nick Patelli. So just, a lot of losses, but a lot of new additions and a lot of new guys stepping up to, the plate. Jason Torres, someone who I don't think we saw too much of last season, leads the team in is second in OPS, if you want to look at it that way. Daniel Covett, who has actually been the biggest name for the Hurricanes this season, leads the team with a 1,318 OPS. And then you have other guys, I mentioned him to you last year, Lorenzo Carrier, who stands 6'5", 280. That guy's an absolute unit. He's been having a very nice season for the Canes, but as well as Blake Sear, who is the ACC, who was named a freshman All-American last season. Already a ACC Player of the Week. So he's off to a very nice start. I mean, this is a very good Canes team. Dorian Gonzalez, we know him well. Eduardo Villegas, Jacoby Long. I mean, this is a team that, although has a lot of new players, a lot of returners as well. And then we'll talk about the pitching matchup in a second, which my friend Jonathan Mayer put it up on the website today.
Oh, he did?
He put up, David Eckes will be the FIU starter. Okay. I need to go back and check who UM will be. I'll just give you a quick look.
Kevin, the last time FIU beat Miami in baseball, it was April 25th, 2018.
Were you there?
What were you doing in 2018, Kevin?
I think I was in middle school still, I think. What you were there, right?
No.
Or you were just wrapping up high school.
Yeah, I literally graduated high school a couple months after, and then I went to college a month after. So that was even before my time. But that was FIU's last win in this series in baseball. It was April 25th, 2018, over in Coral Gables. Convincing win, by the way, 14-6. But after that, it's just been loss after loss after loss. Some of them have been close, right? You had what immediately comes to mind, and you and I were both there. We were literally calling it on Mixler, that walk-off bottom of the ninth homer to steal the win for the Canes.
Yeah.
Not to mention a few run rules here and there, some really bad beatdowns here and there. But for the most part, the games between the University of Miami have only gotten more competitive over the years. And a lot of that has to do with the fine recruiting that head coach Rich Witten has done with this FIU Panthers team to sort of match what Miami has based their teams in how they have based their teams in the last few years, which has been power at the bat with solid pitching throughout the game. That's been Miami's mindset as they look to get into Omaha as they have national championship aspirations. FIU's done a good job as of late, sort of matching that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest thing to look at is just look at the guys who kind of took down this FIU team. Yanni Morales was obviously the big name there. He won the second round of the MLB draft to the Washington Nationals. You talk about that walk-off, Zach Levinson. He's now with the St. Louis Cardinals in their organization. And funny enough, I saw him play the other day in the spring breakout game, and he hit a home run off of one of the Marlins pitchers. So funny enough, that was a funny coincidence there. Aside from that, it's a lot of guys who have beat down FIU that are now at the next level or, somewhere close to that. So you have to look at it and it's gotten a lot more competitive, especially last season. 2 games that both really went down to the wire in that 9th inning. FIU gives up 3 in the 9th at home, and then they gave up, I believe, 3 more in that 9th inning at UM, which included that Levinson walk-off. Just a tough overall game, too, especially that Mark Light game that was, I believe, in the rain. Yeah. You remember that, Jake. And on top of that, you also have to think about it and tell yourself, look, I mean, they got screwed over kind of, too. The umpires weren't very good.
No, they weren't.
You may have seen it after that game, but Brendan Rooney kind of threw all his catcher's gear on the field, and he almost got a post-game ejection. So it just shows you how rough of a game that was for the Panthers. And, I won't say the exact words he said, but FIU manager Rich Winton really went into how big that series against FAU means to this program and this school. Yeah. Imagine just how much more it'll mean to take down an ACC opponent, now Power 4 school with no Pac-12 in the Hurricanes. And this is a Hurricanes team that has kind of had the same trajectory as the Panthers this season. They're 11-8, as you mentioned. They have kind of had a good start to their conference slate. I will pull up their schedule now. Funny, let's do that real quick. They are 11-8, 4-2 in the conference. They just came off of a series win against the number 15 ranked North Carolina. They took a game this season against Florida. They also defeated Virginia in their win, but there are
losses here and there.
A couple losses here and there, but for the most part, they've been very good. They have not lost a midweek matchup besides that UCF game. Right. And funny enough, Long Island, a team that FIU saw at the start of the season, that middle game of their series.
They
lost FGCU.
FAU in a midweek.
FAU and FGCU, so they have not been very good against the state of Florida this year. I don't think they've, aside from the Gators, who they've beaten their conference matchup. They're not conference matchups.
It's not a conference matchup. But it was here in Coral Gables, and they still lost the series. So.
Exactly, but the Hurricanes are a good team, but I think we've been saying this throughout this whole offseason, Jake, that it really does feel like FIU's due a win. And I think, we're recording this on Monday, so tomorrow I think it would be the day they get their win. If I'm sharing my prediction a little bit too early.
Oh, okay. You're sharing your prediction a bit early. I think
we're going to go a little bit into the pitching matchup at some point, so I'll just quickly mention it now.
Okay.
They're going with David Eckes. Jake, David Eckes is not a bad pitcher by any means. He's actually had a really good year for the Panthers, but you look at his last start, he was actually pretty good. Goes 1 1/3, strikes out 2, doesn't give up any runs. He's actually been really good this year. He has only allowed 2 earned runs, only 7 hits on the season. He struck out 11, but I found it weird that they're going with David Eckes here to start the game off when I know he's a freshman, but I really would have liked them to go with Evan Alwine here in this scenario. Again, I'm not the manager. They probably know a lot more than I do, but I would have liked to see an Alwine followed by Eckes. Eckes could really get that meat of the order, get the meat of the game, while Alwine just gets you a couple innings. And, I'm really interested to see who the Panthers use out of their bullpen. I would expect to see a Zach Lampton. I would expect to see a Richie Pena who didn't see action. Maybe an Evan Alwine. So we'll get into the statistics and the details of this game soon, but it's going to be such an interesting game because the big thing to notice is this is the first true midweek game that FIU plays this season. And just the way that first conference matchup went against Middle Tennessee, which, by the way, huge win. You covered 2 out of the 3 games in that series. And they really – and you saw a lot of different things. I mean, Hector Candelas, who really didn't play prior to that first conference matchup, Coach Witten probably just holding him back until that moment. He looked really good. Jeff LaCorey finally got it going, man. He's been needing it. Alex Uyola finally as well. Those guys all made it into the Pro Baseball Radar top teams of the week. I think it was Andre Martinez, Uyola, and LaCorey. So, props to them. So we'll see what happens, Jake. I mean, we'll get into the intricacies of this game a little soon, but there's a lot to like with FIU and why they should definitely be favored. We'll have to look up that line.
Favored is a bold statement when you play.
We'll have to look up the line.
But definitely check the line.
I'll look it up while you talk.
Yeah. It's funny. We've spoken to some of the veteran players like Ryan Guida and, of course, before he graduated, Alex Sanchez. They always said that when the schedules were released, they would highlight the games they would play against the University of Miami to play some of their best baseball because they knew that, first of all, it's going to be it's usually a nationally televised game, as is this game. It's going to be on ACC Network. You're going to have a lot of spotlight on you, and they're always going to be a good opponent that they know personally because, again, it's only like a 20-minute drive from FIU to the University of Miami, assuming traffic is moderate. So, and again, we've spoken with some of the newcomers to this roster. Of course, you have Brylan West, Jeff LaCorey, some of these newcomers that we've spoken to on episodes of the Paws Up Podcast. They also share their excitement in going to Mark Light Field, experiencing the atmosphere there for the first time against a program that has won a whole host of national championships in the past and are desperately looking for another. So the energy that FIU brings to these games against the University of Miami, we know it's some of their highest that they have in the entire series when they play. I
think real quick, I cannot find them. So if you want to look for them, okay, I will let you do it. I actually don't think they have live betting odds for this. But anyways, I just the importance of this game too, because you're playing them next week too, by the way. It's a back-to-back midweek against the Canes, and these games, and you kind of mentioned how important it is. These games get packed out. If there's a game at FIU Baseball Stadium that has full capacity, it is that game against the Canes.
Yeah, Canes fans travel.
They not only travel well, but FIU fans also show up. So that's the big thing about it too.
Because they really want to rub it into the Canes' faces when it finally happens, when they finally beat them, which we've all been praying for a while. It hasn't happened yet, but I know we felt confident in a couple of the matchups last season, but it feels like this season these are the most even that these teams have been stat-wise, pitching, batting, fielding. These teams, I mean, just look at the record, 11-9 compared to 11-8, not to mention the strength and just the batting order that FIU has. It's probably, I'd say, the best batting order they've had in years, and that's no disrespect to what they were able to do last year, because last year's offense for FIU was outstanding. This feels like that when they're playing their best, they can be even better. I mean, it's insane. It's absurd, some of the games they've had, especially that game in which they run-ruled Middle Tennessee back on Sunday 16-6, 11-6 the day before.
Yeah, I think the important thing when it comes to FIU's 11-9 and the Canes 11-8 is just how different their schedules have looked. Now, the Canes have had some cupcake games. There's just no other way to say it. They faced FIU. So did FIU.
New Jersey Institute of Technology.
But now you look at some of the Canes' losses this season to FGCU, extra innings, 12 innings. Florida 7-3, 8-4. They had an easy win against Stonehill. Well, actually, no, not even. That was a pretty close game, 7-6 game. You lost to Virginia.
They were most recently run ruled. They themselves were run ruled by North Carolina, I believe, 18-6.
Exactly, but again, North Carolina.
North Carolina is a fantastic school.
Yeah, you have to look at it and you have to tell yourself, look, I mean, this is the Canes team that was looking on the outside in of the top 25, but their loss against that final game against North Carolina really put them out, and FIU has a chance to spoil their outside looking in chances even more. And for FIU, to help out their RPI, Johnny's the master when it comes to RPI. So
Johnny's, by the way, let's clear the air. Johnny's over in Georgia with the swimming and diving team as they compete in the NCAA regionals. So, of course, best of luck to them. We'll talk a bit more about what's going on in the world of FIU athletics later, but that's where Johnny is right now. So, yeah, good for him, and best of luck to them. So, but, yeah, it's funny that both teams are coming in exact opposite situations. FIU just run-ruled a conference opponent. Miami just got run ruled by a conference opponent. Granted, I think Middle Tennessee and North Carolina are two different ends of the baseball spectrum, if you'd like to say that. But again, any given baseball game, some magic can happen. And going back to the pitching for a second, you alluded to the choice of, I believe, David Eckes that's going to make the start for FIU today. You had mentioned Allwine to be who you would prefer to be the starter. AJ Ricketts spoke about this in yesterday's game. It feels like the ideals of FIU's pitching situation as of right now is to leave most of their top talent, like some of their strongest arms and some of their overall best pitchers, towards the latter end of games as more of the relievers and the closers, in contrast to who they have as the starters. Do you think that's a pretty accurate situation on what FIU is doing pitching wise, game after game?
Now, to clarify, it was not AJ Ricketts on the broadcast.
Oh, it was him?
No, but I think it's fair to mention that he's not wrong. But again, it's a midweek game. You're not going to use.
Who was it? Wait, who was it? Was it Corey or?
It was Corey, and no offense, I forgot the other guy's name.
Okay,
you'll have to look at the game notes or whatever. But
right.
I think the fair thing to mention is that it's a midweek. You're not going to see Ryan Cabarrus or Orlando Hernandez pitch in a midweek game unless there's nobody else. They're not going to pitch. And again, Cabarrus pitched yesterday, so you're not going to see him against the Canes. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, David Eckes makes sense here. I am surprised they're not going with him more during the normal year, but I mean, just going through some of the options that they'll probably go with tomorrow. Really quick, some right-handed pitching options, left-handed, I'm sorry. Jaden Bishop could see some games. Again, Tristan Dietrich, Ryan Ryerson, Zach Lampton, Chantress. Those are just some guys that I could see really getting the action. And then for righties, Richie Pena, Bryce Green. I think you could see Cam Kleins. I really could see Alfonso getting some action and Alwan. So, I mean, you're not going to see someone like a Logan Rundy or a Cameron Knox or a Owen Putt get action in this game. I think it's not, the statement is correct, but again, it's a little too over exaggerated in that sense where you're going to save your best arms. That's evidently going to happen because it's a midweek game that, no offense, as fun as the matchup is and as fun as the rivalry is, it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day because what now matters is that conference record, and they're going to go up against a very good Western Kentucky team this weekend, and that is the real matchup to be looking at, not this University of Miami one. Now, there's a reason we all go. There's a reason why it gets packed out because this one has some added motivation. It has more of the bragging rights. It has more of, you're not going to lose to this team 11 times in a row, but you also have to look at it in the sense where Western Kentucky is a damn good team, and it's going to show how good your offense is against an ACC opponent. Now, can you do that against another good opponent in Western Kentucky who we aren't going to preview now? We'll probably preview towards the end of the week, but they're a damn good ball club.
Mm-hmm. And especially considering FIU's schedule, what they've done since the beginning of the season leading up to having to go on the road to Bowling Green, Kentucky. They have not left the state of Florida yet this season. They traveled up to Daytona. They traveled up to Boca Raton for a couple games, and they're going to take, a short 20-minute drive to Coral Gables to take on the Miami Hurricanes before you finally have to get on a bus or get on a plane. I don't know exactly how they leave for those cross-state matchups, but you're going to have to get on a long trip to Bowling Green, Kentucky to take on, as you mentioned, a very good conference opponent. So this game against Miami is, again, going to be a good test to see where FIU is at when it comes to batting and pitching against some of the top talent in the region, and you could even say across the country with the sort of the prestige that the Miami Hurricanes tend to play with.
And again, I think we need to hammer this point down. This is a midweek game. You're not going to see the best Canes pitchers. That's why we're seeing someone like a Drew Dwyer, who, he was at Lynn for 2 years. He was really good at Lynn. He's been struggling with the Canes in his first year with them. His first year? No, this is his second year with the Canes. He's a graduate student. He's been all right. I mean, 2.1 innings. He's going to get the start. It's it's him because that's what Johnny mentioned in the preview. So it should be interesting. This guy going up against a team that kind of, I guess, was fairly his competition at the D3 level. No offense, but that's just how it is. And this is a good test for the pitching for FIU. I mean, you kind of mentioned it. David Eckes has a good chance to go out there, and if he shoves, he has a good chance to make a weekend, the conference rotation or the conference bullpen at that point. And That's a good thing if you're losing guys on the midweek side. But again, should be a great opportunity. I expect to see Alwan. I expect to see Dietrich go tomorrow for the Panthers. One
Yeah,
righty, lefty there on that end. And with Dietrich, it's really interesting, and we could dive into this a little bit. He's kind of been hurt a little bit too. I was talking to him.
yes,
I was talking to him in the midweek, in the middle, not middle game of the Boca series, and he was telling me that every time he holds it, like grips the baseball, it really does hurt his finger. So that could really be the reason why he's having a lot of control issues. Um, you hope that's going to get solved soon. Alwan, I mean, I don't know if you've seen him, Jake, but that guy is huge. He is about
yeah,
6'4", 6'5". He is a big guy who's just so imposing, long arms, really just handing the ball off to the catcher. That's kind of how it feels. So we'll see. Definitely an interesting case there on what they could do. And that would really be cool to see them throwing the freshmen in there in this big
yeah,
game for what this look again, it's a midweek, but this game means so much to this program. It would snap a 10-game losing streak, which has gone from since 2018. They haven't beat
yeah.
this team, and they have the chance to do it tomorrow night.
We saw what Alwine did when he took on Bethune-Cookman not that long ago. He went 3 innings, threw 40 pitches, gave up no runs, only a single hit, and struck out 3. Some pretty solid numbers considering I believe that was his first start. And
What did he do against FGCU? I think he did not do very well, but still
uh,
good.
let me double check. Uh, not to completely jump out of the pitching category, but I do want to talk a bit more about what FIU obviously is very solid in and is sort of the backbone of their team right now, and it's their offense and how good they can be in any given inning. Most importantly, the 6th inning, which is really how they found their magic against Middle Tennessee. But one player I think has really stood out, and again, the obvious players like Brylan West at the Brylan West and Ryan Guida as 2 of those players that they're going to be good batters. But Jeff LaCorey and how he began the season, I believe at the 2nd spot, and then Coach Witten moved him down to the 6th spot. And now he's really made a home for himself there. He had a very fantastic series against Middle Tennessee. He hit a solo homer in the series final, which is super awesome to see. Jeff LaCorey, ever since moving down to that 6th spot, has pretty much become, again, another staple of an otherwise really good batting order for FIU.
Yeah, and he was originally the fifth hitter on this in this lineup. He went down even more, and I'd spoken to him that first time, and it was in that was that Bethune game where he hit the homer, and he really mentioned just like it takes pressure off of me because most of the time you're going to see Brylan get on base, and I'm following him up. I don't have a good idea of I'm at the bottom of the order, middle to bottom of the order. I get a better opportunity to drive guys in. I get more time to prepare myself for that at bat. But again,
yeah,
having Jeff LaCorey at the 6th spot in your lineup shows how good the top of the order can be or is at the moment. I mean, this lineup from top to bottom can hit. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I think the biggest issue with them has been clutch. They haven't been very clutch. We've seen it at times. I believe it was that final game against Notre Dame. Bases loaded, Brylan struck out. It was a pop out, and they just weren't able to get anything going there. That shows you got to be a little bit more clutch. They had chances against Bethune when they went up to Daytona. I mean, they've had their opportunities. And last year, FIU came in the clutch. They were a very clutch team last season, especially in these games against the Hurricanes. That first game, I believe that may have been the second game at Mark Light, the one that they got walked off of.
Yeah.
You have to look at it and you have to tell yourself, they had a good chance. They came back. They really put themselves in a great position. I believe it was that Girardi hit with Alex Sanchez there. I mean, those were the good times. And hopefully, tomorrow we'll see, I don't know how the weather will be. Maybe you could see a repeat of this game.
Check the forecast real quick to see what it's going to look like in Coral Gables. But to answer a previous question, Alwine against Florida Gulf Coast did not finish a full inning. He gave up 2 hits, 4 earned runs. A lot of that was off of 4 batters hit by a pitch, which filled up the bases. He did strike out 1, but unfortunately a very short, not a very good outing against the Eagles. But again, when he started against Bethune-Cookman, he found some success, and of course he got the win for that, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, with that said, again, you have sort of the staples of this offense and or this starting lineup and where they are. You have Brylan West leading off. You have Ryan Guida, the DH, at the 3 spot. And then down the line, you have LaCory at the 6th spot. Those are a few players that day in and day out you can really have confidence in that they will get the bats going. It was sort of I understand it was sort of a one-time thing, but the amount of players hit by pitches in that Middle Tennessee series, specifically the Sunday game, was pretty crazy.
Guida's been hit a lot this season.
That was a big part as to how FIU found success in those short bursts and those single innings where they scored 6 runs in an inning, which is absolutely absurd. And by the way, that first game against Middle Tennessee, FIU again had a shot to win. It was the comeback cast. I believe at one point they were only down a run before Middle Tennessee eventually broke away. And then I believe you had that instance in, I think, the Saturday game where, of course, the freaking dropped on a strikeout rule, whatever that is, and then Brylan West messing up the catch at first base. It is what it is. They ultimately got the win. They won the series against Middle Tennessee. It's always nice to start off conference play winning the series, right? It gives you good momentum going in, and, of course, I say that and it's ironic, but they're about to have one of their biggest games against a non-conference opponent, but as far as they're concerned, it might feel like a conference opponent considering how often they play this team. Again, playing the same team 4 games in a season is pretty nuts. I mean, that's more than they play most conference opponents, which is 3 games. So, yeah, should be fun. And, I
have one more stat I want to share here.
Did you check the weather in Cortland? Let me do that real quick.
It'll be beautiful. I already checked.
Oh, yeah?
But I do want to share a fun stat here. Well, not fun. It's a really weird stat, but really sad. Ryan Guida last year got hit 12 times by a pitch. This year, he's at 8 hit by pitches. So he's on track to really break his own record. And amongst the conference, him and Brylan West are tied for Brylan West, and Caleb Johnson and Gabe Young, 2 Jack State guys, 2 FIU guys, all tied for second in the conference in hit by pitch at 8 hit by pitches.
I guarantee you, if you were to ask Ryan about that, he said, I'm just happy to get on base and help my team. He'd say something like that.
And FIU leads the conference with the most hit by pitches at 46.
That's a really
and it's not even close. They are far ahead of the most. But I guess if you want a better stat offensively, they are 1, 2, 3. They're tied for 3rd with the most home runs in Conference USA at 28. Hey. That should change tomorrow if they hit 2 more. They'll be.
I was about to say it's kind of impressive. They do so well in home runs, as everyone always talks about. FIU Baseball Stadium is not a very home run friendly stadium for batters to play in, but FIU has still done a pretty good job at that. So again, kudos to
them. I guess not the way you want to see it. They have the 3rd most strikeouts in the conference.
Oh.
Aside from
strikeouts, as in the batters have struck out, or the pitchers have delivered strikeouts?
Batters have struck out. FIU, who has actually the least amount of stolen bases in Conference USA, they are 6 for 6 on stolen bases. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to talk about strikeouts, we could go through a couple of pitching stats before we go.
Yeah.
FIU is 4th in ERA. They are 8th in innings pitched, which doesn't really matter. They have the 5th most amount of saves, but are tied for 3rd in that category. They have given up the 4th most runs in Conference USA at 112.
Mm-hmm.
They have given up the 6th most amount of walks, which is actually pretty good when you look at it. And they have struck out the 4th most batters. So that's pretty good. Really have to be happy where they are at. They have actually hit the 2nd most people. So not the best. But again, some cool stats to throw out there right before we go into conference play here.
The last question I want to ask Kevin in regards to this game is who are some of the essentially who are you mentioned at the top some of the big name players for the Miami Hurricanes, but who do you feel like are some of the unsung heroes of this Canes roster that I know you've done your research, you wrote that amazing preview that you all should check out on the Paws Up page for this game between Miami and FIU. Just in your eyes, who are the biggest threats, either newcomers or even freshmen or transfers on Miami's batting order that scare you the most as far as this matchup goes?
I mean, you got to say Daniel Covett. I mean, that freshman guy.
He's a freshman, right?
He's a freshman. He's a stud. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Really, that's the one that stands out to me. Lorenzo Carrier got a couple games of action against FIU I told you that guy's huge. So
Hubbard's got like 9 home runs and let me see, 26 RBIs. I mean, for
Hubbard's a stud, man. And then obviously Jason Torres, I think another newcomer there. I'm excited to see those guys. I'm excited to see what this starting pitcher does. He could be pretty good.
Yeah, could be good. And a lot of questions will be answered because this is just the start of a 4-game series.
Back to back midweeks, and I think towards the end of the season, they get them 2 more times.
I remember when it was only 2 games a year against the Miami.
I get the luxury. I come to FIU and I get the luxury.
Yeah. Granted, this is getting off topic, but it was cool to see FIU take on Miami in basketball, and I hope that's a thing that continues next season as well, to see the Canes and the Panthers go at it over at the Watsco Center, or, of course, the Ocean Bank Convocation Center, and to see them, again, go at it against the Miami Hurricanes in baseball so much, and why not? I mean, obviously, travel costs are at a minimum because it's just a short bus ride over to each campus. The players, in all likelihood, know each other very well because, again, they probably all live close to each other as well. Same thing goes for the coaching staffs. And, it's a fun rivalry.
We didn't mention this. New coach for the Kings, J.D. Ortega, I think is his name.
Okay.
So we'll see how he looks.
Yeah, that's right. What was I going to say? Well, yeah, just to sum it up. It's a rivalry. Well, we want it to be a rivalry. In order for it to be a rivalry, it has to be competitive.
Yeah.
It has to be competitive, and it has been competitive. It needs to be. Both teams need to get solid wins here and there, but unfortunately, like I said, that hasn't happened for a while for this FIU team.
And I'm excited. The next sport we'll be talking about. The next sport we'll hopefully be talking about rivalries is week 3 of FIU football against FAU.
Yeah, it's always fun.
They want to be called Florida Atlantic now, so Florida Atlantic.
Not FAU. They just want to be.
They want to get rid of the FAU. I heard, so they're going to go with Florida because I mean, I guess when they look at it, it's just like they're FAU, but they have FIU. So
University of Boca Raton, just like how Miami is UCG, University of Coral Gables. Hey, all right, let's do it one more time. Yeah, UCG. I remember when that all started. It really took off after FIU beat Miami in football that one year, and then everyone sort of trademarked UCG. Yeah. So, alrighty then. We've talked quite a bit about this matchup between FIU and Miami. It should be a fun one. And again, we're going to be there. First pitch is at 6 o'clock. If you can't make it out to Mark-Light Field, the game can be seen on ACC Network. If you are there, go and grab a Mark-Light milkshake. Oh, yeah. That's what I want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Milkshakes. Yeah. It's weird. I think the Canes have been doing sort of thematic milkshakes this season based on who they're playing. If I'm not mistaken, when they took on New Jersey, they had like
a bagel, right?
A cream cheese bagel milkshake. And when they took on the University of Florida, I don't know what flavor it was, but it had like a gator on top of it. So I really want to see what they do for this FIU series, if anything. Maybe like a golden, I don't know, something golden related because of you.
But will they do it for one game? I don't think so.
Well, they would bring it back later when they take them on.
Yeah, unless they bring it back. I'm excited, man. We're gonna get our little media coupon. Go down there.
Yeah, complimentary milkshake. What do you remember the flavors you've already had? Like,
I don't, but I would assume there's a new menu. So I'm excited. I had the
menu.
You know what? I had the red velvet one last time.
I think I had red velvet ones. I had a peanut butter one, a Snickers one. They were.
We'll try it. Hey, I'm excited for tomorrow, man.
Yeah, no. Again, this is pre-recorded the day before, but by the time this goes up, we're probably already going to be in Mark-Light Field doing a little bit of scouting, getting a Mark-Light milkshake eventually, and getting ready to hopefully watch a big time upset. So, with that said, again, you have the 11-9 FIU Panthers. The 11-8 Miami Hurricanes. I think I mentioned off the top, one of the most even matchups in this series that we've seen in a while. So we've been talking quite a bit. I think it's time now to make a prediction. If the University of Miami faithful flood this preview, we got to let them know who's going to win this game, FIU or Miami, and a score prediction. I think we're both in agreement that this is probably going to be a high-scoring matchup on both ends, but I'll let you take the wheel, Kevin. Who's winning?
So we'll choose an MVP of the game as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna take FIU here.
Hey,
David Eckes has been really good. I think he repeats that. I don't know how many innings he'll go. Maybe he goes 2 or 3. Hopefully, I mean, if you're Coach Witten, you hope he gives you 4. I think FIU wins. You think high scoring? I'm thinking more low scoring. I'm gonna say they win 4-2, and the MVP will be Brendan Rooney. He went yard the last time they took on the Canes. I think he'll do it again.
damn! You sniped my MVP prediction. Wait, pause, Kevin. What are you wearing? What's that shirt say?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, it was green.
I know.
So
I knew you were
was
going to say something.
scared.
Look, man. Look, Canes down.
Hey, there you go.
We'll screenshot that if FIU gets stolen.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say maybe it's a St. Patrick's Day thing. I don't know, but
We'll say that.
okay. I am on the fence that this is going to be a more high-scoring contest. I mean, I feel like both teams are going to do well around the first and second innings, just getting some runs, maybe a few solo homers here and there. And then as the game progresses, you go to the third, fourth, fifth innings, things are going to slow down a bit until you get to the sixth or seventh. FIU has proven themselves a very talented team when it comes to scoring runs around the latter end of games, such as they did against Middle Tennessee around the sixth or seventh innings was when they really took off scoring runs. And Miami sort of does the same thing, except they have been the more dominant teams at times throughout the entire course of a game. With that said, I'm going to say that FIU wins. I will give you a score prediction of 8-6. 8-6. 8-6. A very fun game to watch, obviously.
It'll be a very long game, man.
A fun game to report on. And my MVP for the game will be.
So I took your MVP, right?
Yeah. So you know what? I'll go with the leadoff man himself, Brylan West. Brylan West, again, one of those players that really he was excited about going to Mark Light Field, going to Coral Gables, experiencing what that field has to offer. And I think he's going to have a fun time, especially if the bases get loaded around the latter end of the batting order and Brylan West steps up to the plate. He can absolutely send one. He can send one out. So, alrighty then. Let's talk a bit about FIU athletics since we have some time here. Before we get into sort of a roundtable look at what in the world has happened, I think we ought to give basketball their time in the spotlight because the men's team, the women's team is still going on. We found out earlier today they're going to be taking on Stetson in the first round of the NIT, which is really cool. I believe that's on Thursday at 7 p.m. So that should be super sick. Men's basketball, it was reported earlier today, and Kevin caught wind of the news very early that the following players, at least for now, have announced that they have, or not announced, but it's been reported, speculated even, that they have entered the transfer portal.
No, it's official. They all
so, yeah, are all of them official?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Arturo Dean, Mohamed Sanogo, and Petar Kravakovic. And obviously, you also have Seth Pinckney and Javante Hawkins graduating as seniors. Best of luck in whatever they decide to do following. Right now, really, they got to plan ahead for that. But this is coming off a, technically speaking, it's a first-round exit for FIU. However, in the Conference USA postseason, they essentially played a play-in game where they actually did knock off Jacksonville State University by a score of 76-67 before essentially getting blown out by the number 1 seed Sam Houston State.
Yeah.
78-59, who ultimately could not win the conference as well.
UTEP beat them, right?
I believe UTEP beat them, and ultimately Western Kentucky won the whole thing. They will be representing Conference USA in the NCAA tournament, so March Madness, which is always fun to see. But yeah, so FIU men's basketball won a postseason game. Let's get that out of our system. Congratulations to them. Now, let's get into the bad stuff. They were 11-22 this season, which was a worse record than what they had the prior year. They went 1-12 on the road, 5-11 in the conference, 1-4 in neutral site games, that being the Cayman Islands Classic, which they were invited to around the former end of like the earlier end of the season. And
tough season. Yeah, I mean,
it was a tough season, and at the very least, you saw potential in sophomore Arturo Dean, who led FIU in everything: points, rebounds, assists, blocks, or not blocks, steals. He led. I believe he still leads the nation in steals, if I'm not mistaken. That could have changed. Now, obviously, it might change once the tournament starts, but still. So we thought to ourselves, all right, we're going to have a solid piece for a couple more years, because this was a sophomore year. He had an amazing freshman year, one freshman year in the conference, a native kid from Miami, but he's not going to be on this team next season. We don't know where he's going to go. In all likelihood, he's going to get some Power 5 offers, maybe some ACC or SEC offers. We'll see if he wants to stay in Florida, maybe go to our rivals or over in Coral Gables or even Boca Raton. See what he does there. But man, Arturo Dean was the face of the franchise.
Yeah,
I'd argue he was the face of the franchise last year as a freshman, and obviously this year as a sophomore. And now Coach Ballard, who again has had some bad luck overall with the transfer portal and keeping players in South Florida, it's going to be back to square one for him, trying to figure out who can sort of lead the way for an FIU team. Because look at it. Okay, take away Arturo Dean out of the picture. You had Javante Hawkins as arguably your best overall shooter. He's gone. You had size in Seth Pinckney. He's gone. Same thing with Patar, who was sort of building a very solid prowess in the three-point shooting. He was building that towards the latter end of the season. He's gone too. We don't know the extent of Jonathan Abar's injury and how that'll affect him heading into next season. So that remains to be decided. But beyond that, my God, some of the biggest pieces FIU had in 2023/2024 are gone. And Jesus, Coach Ballard and FIU cannot keep a steady team around for more than a season, more than 2 seasons if lucky. This sucks, man. You have nothing to build on now. You have to start from scrap again.
Yeah, honestly, I knew there was always a chance Arturo would head to portal. I thought as long as Ballard is there, Arturo was going to stay. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
I thought as long as they won a postseason game as well, and they actually did.
I don't even think that was it. Honestly,
really?
I don't think that was it. But you also have to look at it. You know, these last couple of years for FIU men's basketball, they've been trending down, and this was a little spike up with their win. And you know, rightfully so. They were supposed to beat this team twice last year, and this past season they just didn't. And they were finally able to get their revenge in that final game. And they played a pretty damn good first half against Sam Houston, from what I saw from the box score.
But they couldn't close. They couldn't close.
They couldn't close, and a lot of this really fell on Dean, where it really came down to the Arturo Dean one-man show. And that's not going to be the case for the next 2 years for FIU basketball, or the next couple of years. You really hope they bounce back. And if I'm looking at an early prediction, just even with whoever they bring from the portal and recruitment, you know, right now you'd have to think FIU is going to finish at the bottom of Conference USA. And it's not even close. You know, maybe New Mexico State would finish under them. Like, that's the only one I could think of. But right now, FIU, you know, you still have some good pieces. You have Deshaun Giddens, who's going to come back from his injury. You have Okechukwu Okeke, who, you know, with a little more experience and a little more go at it, he should be pretty polished. You still have a big man there, but FIU is going to have to prioritize big men in the portal, as well as
prioritize size.
Really find a new backcourt, man, because you lost
a new backcourt.
They lost
a new front court. Find good 3-point shooters. Find players who could do everything, and that is impossible to do in one off season. I hate to say. So,
and maybe they bring some guys from the Power 5 side. I mean, who knows? Some guys. Honestly, I don't know much about the basketball transfer portal, and both of us will learn as we go. But maybe a couple guys who weren't getting their chance at the Power 5 will go down to the G5, and FIU may be able to snag a couple of them.
I did see that Denver Jones as well over at Auburn. They won the SEC.
Good for him, man. He deserved it. That would have been a fun team with Denver Jones there.
Another year playing in March Madness,
Javante Hawkins. That would have been a fun team.
Who's Auburn playing in the tournament? Denver Jones, by the way, in that championship game against Florida, had 11 points. So, I mean, that ain't bad, you know. Taking on Yale, Mike McDaniel's school. Okay, well, just, I guess, a quick Denver Jones shout out. But, this sucks, Kevin. I mean, there was a little glimpse of hope because for as awful, I mean, just being blunt here, for as awful as this season was for FIU men's basketball, you had some games where you really got to see this FIU team at their best. I immediately think of Senior Day when they beat Western Kentucky at home. Javante Hawkins was a monster that game. And again, of course, the postseason game against Jacksonville State, you were down 11 points at the half. You came back and eventually took the lead and kept the lead. So those games, we saw the best of this FIU men's basketball. And, oh, man, that's something that you can absolutely build on to potentially finally get a Conference USA title, which, I mean, maybe I'm incorrect here. I don't immediately know off the top of my head. I don't believe they have a conference championship win in men's basketball yet, or Conference USA, I mean. So it sucks. At what point does, and again, thank God Johnny's not here because he'd be losing his mind right now. But at what point does something need to change coaching staff-wise as well? Because a lot of assistant coaches have come and gone during Coach Ballard's tenure here at FAU. I believe he just wrapped up his 6th year, I want to say, with the Panthers. There were some – was there a great season at FIU men's basketball during his tenure? I mean,
I think you may have been there, but his first 2 years were very good. He finished.
I think that was before my time. I want to say.
Well, either way, his first 2 years were very good.
First 2 years were good. Once COVID hit, things have been bad since 2019, 2020. Then COVID. Last season obviously was also great. I believe they were last in the Conference USA last year, and obviously you're going to be last this year. And you and I are already predicting that they're going to be last next year. And I mean, and look, they could have the greatest offseason ever when it comes to finding young talent, finding recruits from JUCO or from the P5 level who want to get more playing time in a conference like CUSA for FIU. But I think men's basketball right now is the most depressing sport on campus for FIU as far as future, because FIU football, there are some parts of their roster that you can say, oh man, they have a great future. They have potentially a great future quarterback in Keelan Jenkins. Men's soccer's future is great. That's a very consistent program. Same thing with swimming and diving. Hopefully that put a smile on Johnny's face when he watches this. Swimming and diving is always going to be great. In baseball, you have Rich Whitten, you have a great batting order. By the way, this is a preview for FIU baseball. We've been going on a tangent here on men's basketball, but I mean, the season's over for them, and I don't know. Maybe this is
with women's basketball too. They had a big senior class. They're losing a lot of girls, but again,
but I don't think we can comment a whole lot on that because their season's not over. We'll get to that.
It's not over, and with women's basketball, I do believe that it goes on with saying that recruitment on their end is a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could wrap it up here.
Yeah, again, just a controversial opinion probably, but as far as all the sports at FIU, or all the major sports, I'll say, at FIU right now, the future with the men's basketball team is pretty bleak compared to the rest. And I hope Coach Ballard and the Panthers can figure this out. But we will see. So, alrighty then, let's finally do a look around to FI. Oh, actually, before we even do that, Kevin, you've gone to some football practices, by the way. Today. I mean, what do you have
to be fair? I haven't been very consistent. I've only been to one, but
it's perfectly fine.
I guess I went to pro day today. It was fun. Got to see some of the some of our former Panthers out there. Donovan Manuel had a very nice pro day. Mm-hmm. Jack Daly, Jalen Bracey. Derek Daniel was good. He had his moments, but he was very good. So overall, good, strong day for the guys. Lucas Matias as well was out there. Practices look good. Nice to see Flex Joseph back out there. I'll be heading over there tomorrow before the game. Yeah. So just to get another good glimpse. They're already wearing their pads, so I missed that. But spring game not too long away, and should be fun.
Any I'm guessing no drama to report player-wise. I know obviously the coaching staff has a lot of new faces. What have you seen out of that?
Well, it's not a lot of new faces. It's just one. Anthony Gator goes to cornerbacks coach, and they bring in, I'm not going to say his name, but former NFL guy. I'm not going to try. They call him coach. They call him Coach KU. So
Okay.
we'll say that. So yeah,
KU.
KU. Yeah.
I don't hate it. All right. So again, practice still. There's still going to be a lot of practices left to go in the spring, and then as we get closer and closer to the football season, those will ramp up even more. And then before you know it, week 1 is going to be here. FIU will be over in Bloomington, taking on the Hoosiers to begin the football season, which I know we're all very, very, very excited for. So, alrighty then, let's finally do a look around FIU athletics. So let me take it away. Let's start off with, again, baseball. They're going to be taken on the University of Miami today. After this, they're going on the road for their first 3-game series on the road, not in Florida. It's over in Bowling Green, Kentucky, taking on the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. That's starting on Friday, March 22nd at 7 p.m., finishing over on Sunday, March 24th. Then they're back in Miami, taking on the Hurricanes at the FIU Baseball Stadium on Tuesday, March 26th, and they're staying at home for a 3-game series against Louisiana Tech. Now, softball currently has a 13-17 record. They are coming off an unfortunate sweep against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers this past weekend. They're going to be over at Felsberg Field also today, over at same time, 6 p.m., as they take on the FAU Owls for a midweek matchup before they head to Murfreesboro to take on the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders this weekend. So, yeah, they currently have a 13-17 record. We talked about men's basketball enough. Women's basketball has a 20-11 overall record right now. They unfortunately fell to New Mexico State in the Conference USA tournament in the first round, 63-50. It was actually the second round, but it was their first matchup in the tournament. They, however, have accepted a position to play in the women's NIT tournament, which should be super fun. They're going to host the Stetson Hatters this Thursday, March 21st at 7 p.m. over at the Ocean Bank Convocation Center. So, of course, best of luck to them. Hopefully their season continues a much while longer. Beach volleyball, we always have to report on them because they are a really great program. They're 14-3 right now. They're coming off a very solid performance over at FAU for the FAU Invite over at Pompano Beach. They took down Florida Gulf Coast, Palm Beach, and 16th ranked FAU. They unfortunately fell to the number 1 ranked USC, Southern California. They are going to a TCU Invitational over in Fort Worth this weekend, as they are set to take on Washington, TCU, Arizona State, and Florida Gulf Coast. And to wrap this up, of course, you have none other than FIU Swimming and Diving, who are beginning, or who will be beginning, the NCAA championships on Wednesday, March 20th, and that'll continue to the 21st, the 22nd, and then we'll wrap up on the 23rd on Saturday. Of course, a lot of FIU swimmers and divers are competing in this. And, yeah, Johnny will be there as well. Hopefully Johnny will get us some good coverage as well on what the swimmers and divers are doing. So that was your look at around the world of FIU athletics. So a lot to be excited for, Kevin. We unfortunately kind of had a sob story there about men's basketball that took us a while. But, I mean, look, the season is now over for men's basketball. It's nice to sort of vent a little as, again, season did not go the way we all wanted to. Of course, women's basketball has a chance to do something really cool in the NIT, maybe bring home some hardware themselves. That's super cool to see. And, of course, football. Football never dies. Football is a sport that lasts all year. And from what you've told me and told us, the practices are always fun. What you're able to see and hear, it's always lights out, man. It's always lights out. It's always lights.
Lights out! Lights out!
You tried.
It didn't immediately go off. That frustrates me a little bit. By the way, some of you may have been noticing the little ticker on the bottom. One of the things that we actually want you guys to know, for those interested, The final message says we are open to sponsorships. Now, we have a lot of awesome viewers that watch the Paws Up Podcast, Paws Up Preview. I know some of you guys, own businesses, own opportunities, and I know we have a lot of great fans here over at the Paws Up Podcast. Section 112, always representing, and we appreciate it. So if you're open to collaborating with us, we are down to hear you out. So we recently added a bunch of new tabs to the Paws Up page, one of which being a contact us section where you can let us know anything. But if you want to do something sponsorship wise with us, our eyes and ears are open, right, Kevin? So send an email our way, pawsuppodcast@gmail.com.
It helps out a lot for us, for Jake and I. It helps us make those trips to Coral Gables, Boca Raton, even, at some point,
Bahamas, when FIU goes back to the Bahamas. When that happens, we'll be there, and it's going to be super awesome. So just wanted to point that out to those who are watching, who are potentially interested, because there are always some, I think. Right? If you're open to a sponsorship with us, we'd be super down. So send a message to us if you're interested.
Yeah, and we should have someone out there for the FIU women's game. So
we'll
talk about that soon.
Yeah,
that is at the end of the day postseason basketball. So
we'll also let you know when our next episode of the podcast is. It's been a hot minute. That last episode with Billy Gill was a very awesome one, and we've been very busy. Obviously Johnny was swimming. Kevin with the Marlins, he's been going to and from Jupiter so many times I've lost track. And not to mention the ongoing Florida Panthers season, which has been super fun for me and Alex Krutchik to be covering. But now as basketball wraps up, baseball continues to go, we'll be having more and more awesome coverage. And, of course, our next episode of the Paws Up Podcast, which we'll let you know in due time with an awesome trailer, probably. So, alrighty then, Kevin. I think it's time to wrap up here, as hopefully you guys are making your way to Coral Gables, to Marklight Field. If you see us, say hey. We'll say hey back. We'll grab a Marklight milkshake, and we'll have a good time as we watch the FIU Panthers hopefully knock off the Miami Hurricanes. And one last time, Alrighty. Hopefully that doesn't haunt us. On that note, have a great rest of the day. We'll catch you in Coral Gables, and as always, Paws Up!